As we continue to celebrate Women's Month, today we turn our focus on women-owned companies, and we're now joined via Zoom by the Chief Operations Officer of the Companies Tribunal, Maletlatsa Monica Ledingwane, to talk to us about empowering women who own companies. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, ma'am. Perhaps the best place to start is if you briefly explain what the Companies Tribunal is all about. What's your mandate?
Good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to the viewers of Channel 404, and thank you very much for hosting us. The Companies Tribunal is an entity of the Department of Trade, Industry and Company, and it was established under the Companies Act of 2008 with the main purpose to assist companies with their disputes. And we do this through various ways, which includes the court-style kind of way, which is adjudication. And we also do it through a method that is very similar to the way that the CCMA that your viewers would be familiar with do it, which is through appropriate dispute resolution. And these services come at no cost at all to the parties themselves, being the applicant and the respondents. And there's also no need for legal representation, even though the parties are free to get one if they need. It is a very easy process that the applicant and the respondent can engage on online on a case management system, our online system. They can also send us applications by email, by post, or they can physically deliver them. And anyone actually who can read and write can use our processes to resolve their disputes if they have a company.
Now, as we go into, exactly what kind of cases that you take on board, talk to us about some of those disputes that you do handle. I mean, one of the cases, as an example, that we know widely in this country that has been talked about is that of, fronting. How do you then handle cases of companies that claim to be women-owned but are used as a ploy, as to, so to speak, to access benefits or tenders, etc.?
Oh, unfortunately, our institution is, as they say, a creature of statute. And so our functions and roles are very much prescribed within the Companies Act. And the one that you have just mentioned now, unfortunately, is not one of the cases that we deal with. But the kind of cases that we deal with, if I can perhaps just inform the viewers, would be the review of the decisions of the CIPC, which is a company registration commission that a lot of the viewers would be familiar with. So any decisions that the CIPC would have delivered on administrative issues, compliance issues, or even application appointment decisions. If the receiver of the decision is not happy with that we can review. We also deal with cases of name disputes where perhaps a person would feel that a name that they have been using for their company for many years has now been taken by another company in a way that is exactly the same or that is very similar in a way that will be confusing to their customers. They can also come to us and we can adjudicate and resolve those disputes. We also, in cases where companies are not able to comply with certain obligations that they have under the Act, such as holding an AGM, which is annual general meeting, or any other compliance, such as perhaps establishing a social and ethics committee, which is one of the requirements in the Act, they are not able to comply with for one reason or another. They can also come to us for permission to allow them to perhaps extend the time or to even exempt them from such compliance. So as a creature of statute, these are some of the functions and roles that have been assigned to us. And unfortunately, the one that you cited, we do not have a jurisdiction on.
How wide?
Unless, of course, the parties.
No, continue.
Please pardon me.
Continue.
Yes. So company-related issues that the parties concerned and come and want us to arbitrate on their disputes because they have consented and they have agreed amongst them. So there, our scope is larger than it is prescribed in the Act.
So if somebody comes to you, approaches you and seeks help, and particularly interested in that one particular case that you mentioned, where somebody is disputing, another ownership in their own company. I mean, if they're not happy with your decision, what other avenues can they take, following coming to the tribunal?
Okay, so like many tribunals, our cases and our decisions are reviewable at the High Court level. So a party who is not happy with the decisions that members of the tribunal have taken can always take the case on review at the High Court.
One of the very questions that we started off very, very quickly, what role do you play as a tribunal in terms of empowering women-owned businesses?
Okay, so because our services are free of charge, we find those to be very suitable to women companies, and because our cases are also resolved so speedily, the maximum number of days that we take if a case is disputed would be maximum 40 days. And because we do not necessarily, unless a party chooses, require that a party be represented by attorneys, we do find these services to be very suitable to women. Apart from that, like all company and government entities, we do procurement. And when we do procurement, we are very decisive and very deliberate around empowering women-owned companies. So we choose them as our service providers where circumstances allow. But our services are very user-friendly. And during this month of women, we are calling out to women to say to them that it is not necessary for them to pay exorbitant costs to have their company disputes resolved. It is not necessary for them to queue to have their disputes resolved as long as they are within the Companies Act. And there's no need to spend their time, valuable time, resolving disputes on their own when they can come and have them resolved at the Companies Tribunal at no cost to them and in a speedy, friendly way.
This is very good information. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, Ms. Ledingwane. Appreciate your time. Of course, that was the Chief Operations Officer at the Companies Tribunal.